Hello and welcome back to SERA English. I'm so happy you are here with me today. If you have been listening since the beginning, you already know that on this podcast we do something a little different. We do not just study grammar rules or memorize word lists. We learn English the way humans have always learned things that matter, through stories, through the lives of real people, through emotion and meaning and the kind of language that stays with you long after the lesson is over. And today we are talking about someone whose entire life is built on exactly that idea. Someone who has turned every heartbreak, every loss, every moment of joy, every friendship, every betrayal, and every reinvention into language that millions of people around the world feel in their bones. I'm talking about Taylor Swift. Now before you say, Sarah, is Taylor Swift not just a pop singer? I want you to stay with me, because by the end of this episode, you are going to see Taylor Swift in a completely different way. You are going to see her as one of the greatest storytellers of our generation. You are going to understand why linguists and literature professors study her lyrics. And you are going to walk away with new vocabulary, new idioms, and a completely new appreciation for the power of words, in English and in your own life. So let us begin. Part 1. Who is Taylor Swift and why does the whole world know her? Taylor Allison Swift was born in December 1989 in West Reading, Pennsylvania, in the United States. She grew up in a small town, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone, where life moves slowly and summers feel endless. From the time she was very small, she was fascinated by words. She loved theater, she loved musicals, and she loved poetry. At the age of 14, she moved with her family to Nashville, Tennessee, the heart of the American country music industry, because she wanted to pursue a career in music. She was 14 years old. Not a child star. Not someone discovered by a talent show. A 14-year-old girl who walked into music offices and said, "I want to do this," and kept coming back even when doors were closed in her face. By the age of 16, she had released her first single. By 20, she was one of the biggest names in American music. By 30, she had become a global cultural force the likes of which the music industry had never seen. Her Eras Tour, a concert tour she completed in 2024, became the highest-grossing music tour in history. $2.2 billion. 149 shows. 21 countries. Over 10 million people in the same stadiums, singing every single word of her songs in every language from every corner of the earth. And in 2025 she released a new album, The Life of a Showgirl, which became, by many accounts, the biggest album of her career. But here is what I want to focus on today. Not the numbers. Not the records. The words. Because the reason people love Taylor Swift, the reason a 15-year-old in Indonesia and a 40-year-old in Brazil and a grandmother in Japan all feel something when they hear her songs, is not the melody. It is the language. It is the specificity of her storytelling. It is the way she finds the exact right word for a feeling that you have had 100 times but could never describe. And that, my friend, is the most important skill in any language. Finding the exact right word. Part 2. Our first vocabulary word. Evocative. Let us start with a word that describes Taylor Swift's writing perfectly. The word is evocative. Something that is evocative brings strong images, feelings, or memories to your mind. Does not just describe something. Makes you feel it. It makes you remember something. It reaches inside you and pulls something out. For example, the smell of rain on hot pavement is evocative. It brings memories of childhood summers. Or, her writing is deeply evocative. Every sentence makes you feel like you are living the story, not just reading it. Taylor Swift's lyrics are extraordinarily evocative. She does not write, "I was sad when we broke up." She writes specific sensory details that make you feel the sadness yourself. She mentions the scarf left at a sister's house. She mentions a Tuesday afternoon. She mentions the way someone's hand felt in hers in a parking lot. The specificity is what makes it evocative. And this is one of the most important lessons for English learners who want to go beyond basic communication and into truly expressive language. When you want to sound natural and powerful in English, do not speak in generalities. Speak in specifics. Do not say it was a difficult time. Say it was the winter when nothing seemed to work, when every morning felt like pushing through mud. The specifics create the image. The image creates the feeling. The feeling creates connection. That is evocative language. And Taylor Swift is a master of it. Part 3, The Moral Story. The girl who kept all her drafts. Now I want to share a story with you. Quiet story. A story about words and courage and the decision to keep going even when the world tells you to stop. Once, in a small and rainy city, there was a young girl named Mira. Mira loved writing more than anything in the world. She wrote stories in the margins of her school notebooks. She wrote poems on the backs of receipts. She wrote letters she never sent, conversations she had imagined but never spoken, descriptions of sunsets and bus rides and the particular sadness of Sunday evenings. But Mira never showed her writing to anyone. She was afraid. Afraid it was not good enough. Afraid that once someone else read it, they would find it ordinary. And she could not bear for her words to be called ordinary. One day, her teacher found one of the notebooks she had left behind on her desk. The teacher read what was inside. And instead of giving the notebook back quietly, she asked Mira to stay after class. Mira was terrified. She sat in the empty classroom with her hands folded in her lap, certain she was about to be told something devastating. But the teacher said only this. "How many notebooks do you have at home?" Mira thought about it. 37, she said. The teacher was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "The world needs those 37 notebooks, Mira. Not perfectly. Not polished. Shared." It took Mira 4 more years to share her first story publicly. It was rough and imperfect and she almost deleted it 3 times. But she shared it. And 30 years later, she became one of the most beloved writers her country had ever produced. Not because she was the most talented, but because she was the one who finally, after all that fear, chose to share. The moral of this story is simple. The language you keep hidden inside yourself cannot help anyone. Not you. Not the world. The courage to share imperfect words is always more powerful than the perfection of words kept in silence. Now let us take our vocabulary from this story. The word devastating means causing a lot of damage or having a very bad effect, either physically or emotionally. When something is devastating, it is crushing. It destroys something important. For example, the news was devastating. She had worked for years to get that opportunity and now it was gone. For English learners, the fear of making a mistake in public can feel devastating. But the actual mistake, when it happens, almost never is. The word polished means perfected, refined, and smooth, without rough edges. When we say someone's English is polished, we mean it sounds natural, confident, and practiced. Polished does not mean perfect. It means well prepared. For example, her presentation was polished and professional, even though she had only practiced twice. Or, his written English was polished, but his spoken English still felt a little stiff. And the word imperfect means not perfect, having flaws or errors. But imperfect is not the same as bad. In fact, imperfect things are often more beautiful and more real than perfect ones. For example, the handmade pot was imperfect, slightly uneven, slightly rough, but that is exactly what made it beautiful. For you, your English is imperfect right now. That imperfection is proof that you are working. It is a sign of growth, not failure. Part 4. Taylor Swift and the Art of Reinvention. One of the most fascinating things about Taylor Swift's career is not just her success. It is how many times she has completely reinvented herself. She started as a country music singer in cowboy boots and curly hair, singing about small-town boys and Friday night football games. Then she became a glossy pop star with a squad of famous friends and stadium anthems. Then she became a darker, more mysterious artist. Snake imagery, shadows, revenge themes. Then she became a cottagecore indie folk musician recording in cozy cabins, writing some of the most literary music of her career. Then came heartbreak albums, joyful albums, re-recorded albums, a documentary, the Eras Tour, and now the life of a showgirl. Each era was completely different. Each era surprised people. And each era brought in new listeners while keeping the old ones. The word for this is reinvention. To reinvent yourself means to change yourself, your image, your approach, your identity, completely and deliberately. Not because you are running away from who you were, but because you are growing into who you are becoming. For example, after 15 years as an engineer, she reinvented herself as an artist and never looked back. Or, great companies reinvent themselves when the world around them changes, rather than clinging to what used to work. For English learners, reinvention is actually something you do every time you move to a higher level in the language. When you go from basic phrases to full sentences, you have reinvented yourself as a communicator. When you begin to dream in English, you have reinvented yourself as a thinker. Every step forward is a small reinvention. And here is the idiom that connects to this idea. Turn over a new leaf. To turn over a new leaf means to make a fresh start, to change your behavior or approach completely, to leave the old way behind and begin again differently. For example, after failing her English exam 3 times, she turned over a new leaf. New study habits, new resources, new mindset. And she passed. Or, at the start of every new album era, Taylor Swift turns over a new leaf. She does not repeat herself. She begins again. Use this idiom. Turn over a new leaf with your English today. Whatever you have been doing that is not working, let it go. Start fresh. Choose differently. Part 5. The language of feelings. One of the reasons Taylor Swift's music resonates with so many English learners, even people who are not yet fluent, is that her language is emotional. An emotional language is universally accessible. You do not need perfect grammar to feel something. You need imagery. You need rhythm. You need truth. Let me give you some vocabulary today that helps you talk about emotions in English with real depth and precision. Because one of the biggest gaps for intermediate learners is the emotional vocabulary gap. You know, happy, sad, angry, scared. But English has so many more layers than that. The word bittersweet describes something that is both happy and sad at the same time. Something that brings joy but also a touch of pain. A graduation is bittersweet. You are proud and excited, but you are also leaving something behind. Looking at old photographs is often bittersweet. Meeting someone wonderful at the end of a holiday is bittersweet. Taylor Swift's music is deeply bittersweet. She has the extraordinary ability to hold joy and grief in the same sentence, to make you smile and feel a lump in your throat at exactly the same moment. For example, the last day of a long journey is always bittersweet. You are glad it happened. You are sad it is over. For English learners, finishing an English course is bittersweet. You are proud of how far you have come, and a little afraid of what comes next. The word nostalgia means a sentimental longing for the past, for places, people, or experiences that are gone. When you feel nostalgic, you are not just remembering. You are aching. There is warmth in the memory, but also loss. For example, looking through her old journals filled her with nostalgia for the girl she used to be. Or, there is a particular nostalgia that comes with hearing a song from your childhood in an unexpected place. The word resilience means the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. To be resilient is not to be unbreakable. It is to bend without breaking. It is to fall and rise. It is to take a hit and keep standing. For example, her resilience after losing everything was extraordinary. Within a year she had built something new. For English learners, developing resilience in language learning means not letting a bad lesson, a bad day, or a bad conversation end your journey. Resilience is what keeps you going past the point where others stop. Taylor Swift has demonstrated extraordinary resilience. She has faced public criticism, stolen music, broken relationships, and a media that at times tried to define her in ways she never agreed with. And every time she found her way back to the music, back to the words. Part 6. 5 idioms from the world of storytelling. Let me give you 5 idioms that native English speakers use all the time, all of them connected to the themes of today's episode. Storytelling, reinvention, emotion, and the power of language. The first idiom is, wear your heart on your sleeve. This means to show your feelings openly and honestly, without hiding them. When you wear your heart on your sleeve, everyone can see how you feel. You are emotionally transparent. For example, she always wore her heart on her sleeve. If she was happy, you knew it. If she was hurt, you knew that too. Taylor Swift has built an entire career on wearing her heart on her sleeve. Her songs are personal, specific, and emotionally raw. And that honesty is exactly what has made her audience trust her so completely. For English learners, there is real value in wearing your heart on your sleeve sometimes. Saying, I am not confident in English yet, but I am trying, is far more connecting than pretending to be something you are not. The second idiom is, hit a nerve. To hit a nerve means to say or do something that causes a strong emotional reaction in someone, usually because it touches something true and personal. For example, his comment about her accent hit a nerve. She had been self-conscious about it for years. Or, Taylor Swift's songs hit a nerve with millions of people because they describe experiences that feel intensely private but turn out to be universal. For English learners, when a piece of English content hits a nerve, When it makes you feel something strongly, pay attention to it. That emotional response is your brain signaling that the language is meaningful to you. Meaningful language is remembered. Meaningful language is learned. The third idiom is find your voice. To find your voice means to discover how to express yourself authentically. In speaking, writing, art, or any form of communication, it means discovering the unique way you see the world and learning to say it out loud. For example, it took her years of writing to finally find her voice as an author. But once she did, her work was unmistakable. Or, the goal of learning English is not to sound like someone else. It is to find your voice in a new language. This is something I think about deeply when it comes to SERA English. I do not want you to learn English and then sound like a copied version of a native speaker. I want you to find your voice in English. The voice that carries your personality, your warmth, your way of seeing the world. That voice, your voice but in English, is the most powerful thing you can develop. The fourth idiom is put yourself out there. This means to make yourself visible, to take a risk and show people who you are or what you can do, knowing you might be judged or rejected. For example, starting a business requires you to put yourself out there and accept that not everyone will be a customer. Or, if you want to improve your spoken English, you have to put yourself out there. Speak in real conversations. Accept the discomfort. Row. Taylor Swift put herself out there at 14 years old, walking into Nashville offices with a guitar. She has been putting herself out there ever since. That courage, that willingness to be seen, is at the heart of everything she has built. The fifth idiom is speak volumes. When something speaks volumes, it communicates a great deal without using many words. Silence can speak volumes. A look can speak volumes. A choice can speak volumes. For example, the fact that he showed up at her door in the middle of the night, that spoke volumes about how he felt. Or, the way a student engages with English outside the classroom speaks volumes about how serious they are about fluency. Good English speakers understand this idiom deeply. Not everything needs to be said explicitly. Sometimes the words you choose or do not choose say everything. Part 7. What Taylor Swift teaches us about language learning. I want to spend this section connecting Taylor Swift's approach to music directly to your approach to English. Because I genuinely believe that the way she works with language is a model for the way you should learn it. The first lesson is be specific. We talked about this earlier, but I want to return to it because it is so important. Taylor Swift's lyrics are full of proper nouns, specific places, specific times, specific objects. Not a necklace, the gold one with the initial. Not a town, a small town in Pennsylvania with autumn leaves on the football field. In English, specificity creates credibility and color. When you speak in generalities, you sound like a textbook. When you speak in specifics, you sound like a person. Practice being specific. Instead of saying, I went somewhere nice last week, say, I went to a small restaurant near the old market. The rice was soft, and the lights were low, and we talked for 3 hours without noticing the time. Do you feel the difference? Specificity is the difference between language that informs and language that lives. The word that captures this is vivid. Something that is vivid is clear, bright, and producing strong images in the mind. Vivid language, vivid memories, vivid descriptions. All of them are sharp, colorful, and immediate. For example, She had a vivid memory of the afternoon her father taught her to ride a bicycle. Or, his description of the market was so vivid that I felt like I could smell the spices and hear the noise. When you speak or write in English, aim for vivid language. Replace vague words with specific ones. Replace general impressions with concrete details. The second lesson is, revise and re-record. Taylor Swift famously re-recorded her first 6 albums after losing ownership of the original recordings. She did not just give up on those songs. She went back. She remade them. She improved them. She put them back into the world on her own terms. For English learners, this is a powerful metaphor. Go back to the things you have already learned. Relearn them. Repractice them. Revisit the words you thought you knew and discover new layers in them. The second time you learn something, you always understand it more deeply than the first time. The word for this process is refine. To refine something means to make it purer, better, more precise, through repeated attention and adjustment. For example, she spent years refining her technique until it felt completely natural. Or, the best way to refine your spoken English is to record yourself, listen back, and notice what can be improved. The third lesson is, tell your story. Taylor Swift writes songs about her own life. Not fictional characters, not imaginary scenarios, but her actual experiences, her actual feelings, her actual losses and joys. And that autobiographical honesty is what creates the extraordinary connection between her and her audience. For English learners, I want you to practice telling your story in English. Not a rehearsed presentation. Your actual story. Where you grew up. What your home smells like in the morning. What you love that most people do not understand. What you are afraid of. What you are working toward. Because the most powerful English you will ever speak is the English that carries your real life inside it. The word autobiography means the story of your own life, written or told by yourself. Your own English autobiography, the story of your journey with this language, is already rich and interesting. You just need the words to tell it. Part 8. The English of Music and Emotion. Music gives us a special gateway into the English language, because the emotional content of a song helps your brain remember the words. This is why so many people have learned English through songs without ever intending to. The melody carries the words into long-term memory in a way that a vocabulary list simply cannot. But Taylor Swift's music offers something extra. Because her lyrics are often so grammatically rich, so idiomatically layered, and so emotionally specific that they function almost like literature. Literary scholars have actually studied her work as poetry. Universities have offered courses on her writing. Let me give you one more vocabulary word from the world of literature and language, because I think it will serve you beautifully as an English learner. The word nuance means a very small difference in meaning, feeling, or tone, a subtle distinction that changes everything. When you understand nuance, you can hear the difference between a word like happy and a word like content. They are similar but different. Happy is loud, bright, immediate. Content is quiet, deep, and lasting. For example, her acting had real nuance. You could see everything her character was feeling without her saying a single word. Or, as your English improves, you will begin to hear the nuance between words that once seemed identical. Learning nuance in English takes time. Comes from listening carefully, reading widely, and paying attention to how words are used in context. Not just what they mean in a dictionary, but what they feel like in a sentence. And that deep, nuanced understanding of English is exactly what SERA English is here to help you build. Part 9. Review and close. We have had a beautiful episode together today. Let me bring everything together before we close. Our vocabulary words for episode 11 were evocative, bringing strong feelings, images, or memories to the mind. Devastating, causing serious damage or having a deeply bad emotional effect. Polished, refined, smooth, and well prepared. Imperfect, not perfect, having flaws but not bad. Reinvention, the act of completely changing yourself or your approach. Bittersweet, happy and sad at the same time. Nostalgia, a sentimental longing or aching for the past. Resilience, the ability to recover from difficulty without breaking. Vivid, clear, bright, and producing strong images in the mind. Refine, to make something better and more precise through repeated attention. Autobiography, the story of your own life told by yourself. Nuance, a very small but important difference in meaning or tone. Our idioms for today were: wear your heart on your sleeve, to show your feelings openly and honestly. Hit a nerve, to say something that causes a strong emotional reaction. Find your voice, to discover how to express yourself authentically. Put yourself out there, to take a risk and make yourself visible. Speak volumes, to communicate a great deal without many words. Turn over a new leaf, to make a fresh start and change your approach completely. 12 vocabulary words. 6 idioms. 18 new tools in your English. And a reminder that language, at its best, is not a system of rules. It is a way of sharing what it feels like to be alive. Before I let you go today, I want to say something that I mean with my whole heart. The reason Taylor Swift has connected with so many people around the world is not because she is the most technically gifted singer who has ever lived. It is because she found the words for things people had always felt but never been able to say. She gave language to experiences that had lived in people's chests, unspoken, sometimes for years. And I genuinely believe that the English language can do that for you. Not just give you a skill for a job application or a conversation with a foreign customer, but give you new words for things you have always felt. Expand the container of your inner life. Let you reach across languages, across cultures, across distances, and say, "This is who I am, this is what I feel, this is what I have lived," and be understood. That is what language is for. That is what SERA English is for. Find your voice. Put yourself out there. Wear your heart on your sleeve at least some of the time. And I will see you in episode 12. This has been SERA English. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with me today.